Have you ever wondered how much your life could change if you simply altered the first 10 minutes of your day? Each morning, we wake up, stretch, grab our phones, and get swept up in the world's momentum. Messages, emails, social media, unfinished tasks from yesterday. And just like that, the day slips by in a blur. We end up exhausted, disoriented, and sometimes haunted by a quiet emptiness we can't quite name. But have you ever paused, even for a brief moment, to ask, Lord, how do you want me to live today? I used to believe I was too busy to pray, too many things to do, too many responsibilities, too many deadlines. I thought God understood, that He could see my overcrowded schedule and surely wouldn't mind. I kept telling myself I'd pray later, tonight, or when things slow down. But inevitably, the day came when my life began to fall apart. Not because I made a major mistake, but because I let the small, sacred moments slip through my fingers morning after morning. In that emptiness, I decided to try something simple. Waking up 10 minutes earlier and sitting quietly, doing nothing else but talking to God. I didn't need to recite long Bible verses. I didn't need to become a powerful prayer warrior overnight. I just needed to show up and say, Lord, I'm here. And then something beautiful began to happen. My emotions calmed. My thoughts grew clearer. The decisions I used to dread now felt easier. I felt a peace that no coffee or social feed could give, a peace that comes only from God's presence. If you're feeling like life is rushing past too quickly, if you're doing a lot but still feel empty, if you're tired of the very rhythm you've created, then this video is for you. Because I believe that giving God the first 10 minutes of your morning isn't just a good habit, it's a choice that can restore your soul. And right after this, I want to share my journey with you. Why mornings are the holiest time to connect with the one who made you. I used to think mornings were just a means to an end. Wake up, get dressed, grab coffee, and survive the day. That was my rhythm. Until one morning I paused and asked myself, why does this part of the day feel so rushed, so chaotic, yet so sacred at the same time? Science actually has something to say about it. Neuroscientists tell us that our brain is in its most open and focused state in the first 30 minutes after waking. This is when our subconscious is still soft, like fresh clay. What we do in those moments sets the tone for the rest of our day, our decisions, our reactions, our attitude. Think about this. The world's most successful leaders have all crafted powerful morning routines. Tim Cook starts his day at 4:30 a.m. Oprah meditates before touching her phone. Robin Sharma calls it the victory hour. But what if, just what if, your first victory of the day wasn't productivity, but intimacy with God? I met a man once, a small business owner in his late 50s. He told me, I used to open my shop before I opened my Bible. But after losing a dear friend to illness, something shifted. Now he lights a candle in his living room each morning, opens the Psalms, and prays before sunrise. He said, my business didn't change much, but my spirit did. You see, mornings aren't just a time slot. They are a sacred doorway. The first 10 minutes are not just about what you do, but who you become. If you give that moment to God, He doesn't just bless your morning. He shapes your heart for the day ahead. And if that's true, then we need to talk about the two things that so often steal that sacred time from us, without us even noticing. Let's talk about busyness and spiritual laziness. Not every enemy comes with a sword. Some wear suits. Some look like your schedule. If we're honest, most of us aren't skipping time with God because we hate Him. We skip it because we're overwhelmed. Life gets noisy. Kids wake up early. Work emails pile up. There's traffic, bills, unexpected news. And little by little, we start offering God whatever is left of us, not the best of us. Busyness is a silent killer. It doesn't knock you down all at once. It slowly drowns your spirit under good intentions and endless checklists. You might feel productive, but inside something starts to dry out. You get short-tempered. You lose clarity. You stop feeling joy even when things are going well. Then there's its twin brother, spiritual laziness. It's quieter, trickier. It hides behind phrases like, God knows my heart, or I'll pray tomorrow. We tell ourselves we're just tired. We plan to start next week, but next week becomes next month. And one day, we look up and realize we're spiritually dry and didn't even notice when it started. I remember talking to a woman who said, I still go to church, but I haven't felt God in years. Not because she turned away, but because she had been living on yesterday's prayers. She wasn't feeding her soul anymore. Here's the truth. Both busyness and spiritual laziness do the same thing. They quietly distance you from God, until one day He feels far away. Not because He moved, but because you did. But there's good news. You don't have to keep drifting. There's one practice that helps us reclaim our mornings and our hearts. Let's talk about the power of giving God your first fruits each day. Have you ever given someone a gift that was clearly an afterthought? A mug from the gas station, a rushed birthday text, a dinner made from leftovers. We know how it feels when someone gives us what's convenient, not what's intentional. And yet, how often do we offer God the same? In Scripture, the idea of first fruits shows up again and again. God instructed His people not to give what was left, but what came first before everything else. It wasn't about crops or animals. It was about honor, about saying, God, you go first in my life. When we give God the last 5 minutes of a tired night or a rushed prayer in traffic, we're not dishonoring Him on purpose, but we're missing the blessing of what could have been. Something sacred happens when we offer our very best moment, the first breath, the first thought, the first quiet moment of the day, to Him. I once knew a man who used to pray every night before bed, but he told me by then I was already falling asleep. I wasn't really present. So he made a change. He started waking up just 15 minutes earlier to pray, even before brushing his teeth. That's when my heart's the cleanest, he laughed, before the world gets a say. Here's the thing. It's not about the clock. It's about the priority. Who gets the first moment of your day? Your phone, your inbox, your worries, or your Creator? And if we want to give God our best, not our scraps, then we need a sacred structure, a rhythm to help us pray, not just out of routine, but out of love. And that rhythm might just be hidden in an ancient verse from the Psalms. There's a quiet power in ancient words, especially when they still fit perfectly into modern lives. Psalm 5:3 says, In the morning, O Lord, you hear my voice. In the morning I lay my request before you and wait expectantly. It's a short verse, easy to overlook, but inside it, there's a kind of blueprint, a simple architecture for how we might approach God each morning. In the morning, O Lord, you hear my voice. That's where it starts, with presence. Not perfection, not performance, just showing up. You don't need to be eloquent or spiritually polished. You just need to speak. Whisper if you have to. God listens. I lay my request before you, to you. This is surrender. It's where we open our hands and say, Lord, here's what's on my heart. No filter, no pretending. You can bring your hopes, your doubts, your stress, your schedule. He can handle it. And wait expectantly. This is the part we often forget, listening. Most of us rush off after amen, but David reminds us, prayer isn't just speaking, it's waiting. Trusting that God is not only hearing, but also responding in His timing, His way. I once met a teacher who kept a little chair by her window. Every morning she'd sit with her Bible and pray Psalm 5:3 aloud. Then she'd close her eyes and simply wait. Some days I hear nothing, she told me, but other days I hear peace. That's the invitation. Not just to speak to God, but to sit with Him. Not just to pray, but to be formed by the practice of prayer. And if we're ready to take this deeper, maybe the next question is, where should this happen? What does a sacred space for prayer even look like? Let's talk about creating your own morning altar. Where do you go to be still? For some people, it's a favorite chair in the corner of the living room. For others, it's the front seat of their parked car. I once met a woman who turned her laundry room into her prayer room. She said, "No one bothers me in there." We often think we need a perfect environment to meet God, but the truth is, He simply needs an invitation. Creating a sacred space doesn't mean building a shrine or redecorating your home. It's about marking a place, no matter how small, where your body and soul know, this is where I meet with God. A consistent spot helps train your spirit. Over time, your heart starts to quiet itself the moment you sit down. You don't need anything fancy, just a small chair, maybe a candle, a Bible, a notebook. Some people keep a warm blanket nearby. Others like playing soft instrumental worship in the background. What matters most is not what it looks like, but how you show up in it. I remember a man who set up his morning altar in his backyard shed. It wasn't pretty, just a wooden bench and a thermos of coffee. But every morning before sunrise, he went there. "That space changed me," he said, "because I knew God was waiting." The principle is simple. If you make space for God, He fills it. And when you create consistency, your spirit starts to expect Him. The altar isn't about impressing Him. It's about meeting Him. Day by day, it becomes not just a place you go, but a place your heart longs to return to. And now that you have the space, how do you begin? What should those first few minutes with God actually look like? That's where we're headed next. Sometimes we don't start something, not because we don't care, but because we're afraid we won't do it well enough. Prayer is like that for many of us. We want to connect with God, but we're not sure where to begin, or we feel guilty for not doing it right. But the truth is, God doesn't need long prayers. He just wants a real heart. That's why I often recommend something I call the 5-minute flow. It's a gentle rhythm, simple enough for beginners, but meaningful enough to build a lifelong habit. You can do it with your coffee. You can do it sitting in your car before work. What matters is showing up. Here's what it looks like. Minute 1. Breathe and be still. No pressure to speak yet. Just sit, close your eyes, breathe deeply. Invite God in. Lord, I'm here. Minute 2. Give thanks. Whisper out loud 2 to 3 things you're grateful for, big or small. Gratitude softens the soul and opens the heart. Minute 3. Read a verse. Pick a short passage, maybe from Psalms or the Gospels. Read it slowly. Let one word or phrase sink in. Minute 4. Speak honestly. Tell God what's on your heart, your hopes, your fears, your plans for the day. No filter needed. Minute 5. Wait and listen. Don't rush away. Sit for just 1 minute in silence. Listen. Maybe He'll speak, maybe not. But stillness is part of worship. I once shared this with a young mom who had 3 kids under 6. She cried and said, 5 minutes, I can do that. That's all I have right now. A month later, she told me, those 5 minutes, they've become sacred. Sometimes we think transformation requires hours of devotion, but really, what changes us is consistency with God, not duration. The secret is starting small, but showing up daily. And now that you have a rhythm, there's still one more voice to confront. It doesn't shout, but it drags you down slowly. Let's talk about what happens when you miss a morning and how grace meets you there. Let's be honest, we all miss days. Sometimes it's a sick child. Other times it's a late night, a stressful morning, or just pure exhaustion. You wake up, realize you've overslept, and suddenly your morning with God turns into, Lord, I'll catch you later. And then comes the guilt. You start hearing that inner voice. You failed. You're not consistent. God must be disappointed in you. But here's the truth. God is not keeping score. He's keeping your heart. I once met a woman who had set a New Year's resolution to pray every morning without fail. She made it to day 16, then missed one. And just like that, she quit entirely. When I asked why, she said, "I felt like I broke something holy." I gently told her, "You didn't break anything. You just missed breakfast with your father, and he still wants lunch." You see, spiritual discipline is not about perfection. It's about relationship. Missing a morning doesn't mean failure. It means you're human. And the beauty of grace is this. God doesn't meet you at your performance. He meets you at your need. He's not a time clock supervisor. He's a loving father. When you miss a day, he doesn't turn away. He waits, patiently, kindly, as if to say, "I'll see you tomorrow. I still love you." So if guilt has been your companion, let grace take its place. You can start again, today, right now. And as we start walking in that grace, there's something even more beautiful ahead. The stories of real people whose lives were changed, not by perfection, but by simple moments of prayer. Let's listen to a few of them next. Stories have a way of touching us in places logic can't reach. When we hear what God has done for others, something inside whispers, maybe He'll do that for me too. Let me share with you a few stories that have stayed with me over the years. There's Sarah, a single mother of two, working 2 jobs. She said mornings used to feel like survival mode. Get the kids dressed, rush out the door, no time to breathe. Then one day, out of pure desperation, she woke up 15 minutes earlier. She sat at the kitchen table, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Lord, I need you today." She started doing it every morning. 6 months later, she told me, "My schedule is still the same, but I'm different. I don't yell as much. I don't panic as easily. I feel held." Or Jason, a military veteran who struggled with anxiety and nightmares. He discovered that reading one psalm aloud every morning calmed his mind more than any pill ever had. "It rewired how I start my day," he said. "I stopped waking up afraid." Then there's Mrs. Ellison, an 82-year-old widow. Every morning she sits by her window, looks at the trees and says, "Good morning, Jesus." Her family once asked her, "Why do you do that every single day?" She smiled and said, "Because He never missed a morning with me." These aren't perfect people. They're ordinary people who made room for God and found something extraordinary waiting on the other side. Peace, perspective, presence. So if you've ever wondered whether 5 or 10 minutes in the morning could really matter, it does. Not because the time is magic, but because the God who meets you there is faithful. Now the only question left is, what happens when we don't? When we let mornings slip away over and over? Let's talk honestly about what we lose when we stop showing up. There's a quiet drift that happens when we stop putting God first. It doesn't look like rebellion. It looks like being busy. It sounds like, "I'll pray later," or "I just need to get through this week." And slowly, without realizing it, our souls begin to starve. When you don't prioritize God, something else takes His place. Your phone, your worries, your to-do list. And while none of those things are evil, they make poor substitutes for peace. I once spoke with a man who hadn't prayed in the morning for over a year. He said, "I didn't walk away from God. I just let life get louder." But over time, he noticed a shift. He became quicker to anger, less patient with his kids, more anxious, even when nothing was wrong. "It wasn't that God left me," he said. "It's that I forgot how to feel close." You see, when you don't start your day with God, you're still going to face the same battles, just without your armor. You'll still have stress, still have decisions, still get hurt. But now you're doing it in your own strength. And that's where weariness grows. The enemy doesn't always try to make us bad. Sometimes he just makes us busy, too distracted. too tired, too delayed. Until one day we realize we've been running on empty, not because God stopped filling us, but because we stopped showing up. But here's the hope. Returning is always one breath away. One whispered, "Lord, I'm here," is all it takes to turn your heart back toward Him. And when you start choosing Him again, every morning, even just for a few minutes, something begins to shift. It's not magic, it's not instant, but it's real. So now, with everything you've heard, what if you made a decision, just for 1 week, to give God the first 10 minutes of your day? Let's talk about what that challenge could look like. Let's make this simple. You've heard the stories, you've felt the nudge. Now I want to invite you into something small but powerful, a challenge, not to impress God, not to earn anything, but to experience something. Here it is. For the next 7 mornings, give God the first 10 minutes of your day. That's it. Before the scroll, before the coffee, before the rush, just you and Him. 10 minutes. You can use the 5-minute flow we talked about, or simply sit with a verse, or talk out loud, or cry, or be silent. Just show up. That's all He asks. If you miss a morning, no guilt. Just start again. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about building a relationship. One breath, one morning, one step at a time. I once knew a man who took this challenge with his teenage son. They sat together on the porch every morning for a week, just reading one psalm and praying a short prayer. On the 7th day, the son turned and said, "Can we keep doing this?" That's the power of showing up. So I'll leave you with this thought. What might change if, for just 1 week, you gave God your first and not your leftovers? Let the mornings become a meeting place, a sanctuary, a whisper of peace before the noise begins. And if this video has stirred something in you, share it. Pass it to a friend who needs a new beginning. Or leave a comment and tell us, what did God speak to you in the quiet? This is just the beginning. Let the next 7 mornings be your invitation into something eternal.